Hello, Pavel. Welcome to another episode.
Hello.
And this week, the complex question I'm going to ask is about language. And my question is, how important are specific words? Hmm.
My first
How
thought
important are
was
specific words?
language, young lady. That's what you could hear in very old movies, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know why young lady that first came to my mind. But I like the subject. I did some sessions in clear language, clean language, clean language, and maybe that's something that I've learned about why it's important to pay attention to the language. It's like there are many different directions that you can approach this from, and one of them is that you actually can create reality in someone's head by the language that you are using and the metaphors that you are using. That's the focus of the clean language. Um, so that's definitely something that is interesting for leaders, for facilitators, both. Um, how does that sound as a first angle to it?
Yeah, I think that's definitely an angle I would follow as well. Like I think when I think about clean language, I recall a way to give feedback, which I really like. And the language is very, very specific. The language is, you say, um, I saw or I noticed something, therefore I thought something, and then my feeling is something else. So
Yeah,
if I'm giving feedback, the first part of the feedback is there's no way it can be, you know, subjective. It's something that objectively happened. So you can say, I saw in the meeting that you had your head down and it looked like you were writing a lot of notes. I thought that the topic was grasping your attention, and it made me feel like maybe we could do a follow-up session after this
yeah,
conversation. And that's like it's a very structured, and it's very, the opposite of clean is dirty, right? So you'd say, why did you have your head down? That's kind of loaded and confrontational, but you might have the same thing in your head. You might be thinking, oh, I wonder why he's taking notes. Maybe he's interested in the topic. Maybe he wants a follow-up conversation. But if I say it the clean way, it
yeah.
guides toward that much better.
Maybe if I even I just thought that it might not be obvious what clean language I'm talking about in terms
Mm,
of this technique that was developed in 80s by David Grove.
right.
And he was a psychotherapist. He was working with people who suffered trauma. And his idea was that he wanted to use a language that doesn't influence the person he's working with. So he was working with questions a lot, the questions that he was asking. And the great thing is that in our line of work, we very often work with questions. And
Right.
he was trying to create questions that didn't provide assumptions, interpretations, and suggestions in terms of how you answer them. So it's like the great question is uh, what type of something. So someone says, I feel stressed, and you ask, what type of stressed? And that's like a question that doesn't, you know, give too much into stressed, that's bad, stressed, that's good. It's like, it's neutral in a sense, what type of stressed. And I think that's how, when I come back to the initial question of how important is language that we are using, I think it's super important, and it's important to think about what is our goal. Because, for example, when we don't want to um, provide too much of our assumptions to the person we're talking to, uh, it's it's good to think about the clean language. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think my question came from a different take on that. So I fully agree. And I have an example of a word that's not clean. I'll come back to it in a sec. But what I'm also thinking of is the we talk about this in some of the conversations previously, picking your battles. And when somebody
yes,
says agile ceremonies, and in your head, in my head, I'm thinking it's not ceremonies, that's something else, that's religious or strange. It's just events or meetings, right? Do I correct someone every time they say ceremonies? No,
we
no,
need more
because
resources. We need more resources, Paddy, on this
people,
project.
people and resources, right? And we work together. I would probably correct people more often on that one. But if I'm working in a company that has lots of project managers, well, that's not really a hill I'm going to die on, right? Because let's face it, the word is used a lot, a lot.
Yes.
20% of a resource over here, 20% of a resource over there, which is funny to me. But some terminology is, um, I think, worth clarifying, and perhaps it is with clean language that we can interrogate what people actually mean with the terminologies that they're using. You know, the meme. I think it's from The Princess Bride. I do not think that word means what you think it means.
Yeah.
The guy from Princess Bride says it, and I hear some terms that I have heard used in different ways, in different contexts to mean different things are domain, value stream, and I'm going to just say it, agile, right? It's a loaded, overloaded, to use a development term, right? It's an overloaded word. Like we need to be agile, right? And maybe a good reaction to that is what type of agile? It might be a healthy
Yeah.
response, you know?
It comes up in my experience, it very often comes up in situations where uh, it's like, can we can we discuss this a bit more? Ah, no, let's be agile about it. Let's just go into,
Yeah.
it's an interesting reaction. This one to how many myths are behind the words that people are using, like the agile that you just mentioned. It's a very loaded word,
Mm.
and people might use it in a completely different way than yeah we would use it. I guess. Yeah, and like you said, maybe clean language response is the proper one in the sense. What type of agile? Uh,
But
what kind of agile?
I think it's amusing to me, and maybe because we're recording this on a Friday afternoon, I'm in a good mood and just thinking about along these lines. But it's amusing to me that to be an agile coach nowadays involves not using that word for me. I try and avoid it as much as possible, because it means too many things to too many people, and it's almost an unhelpful start to a conversation. Whereas coaching, I think is another overloaded term and means different things to different people. But my understanding of coaching, as in starting a conversation with curiosity, asking open questions about the outcome that we're working towards. How will we know we've got there? What kind of role can I play in this conversation or in this arrangement? Those kinds of exploratory opening questions to a agile coaching conversation, I think gets you to where you need to get to. But if you say, "Hey, let's be agile in this conversation," and I'm going to coach you now, it's like, no, 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 no. Another one, product, right? How do we define our products? Have you ever had conversations about that subject in an
Yes.
organization? How
Oh, that
much
was
how
a
much torture is that?
That was a long time ago, actually. But I remember one conversation on, is it broad? Is it narrow? What is better? What is the service part of the product still a product, or is it a separate
Yeah,
service? Yeah, it's just the more some people, uh, maybe let's put it that way. The more you think that everyone agrees on what the specific word means, and the word is very blanket term for a lot of stuff, the more confusion there might be, in a sense. You know, that's our product. And then a lot of people are like, uh, they have immediately their own definition of what it is that we're talking about.
yeah, yeah. And I think it's a good topic, this one, about, so when do words matter, right? When do words really matter? What does that depend on? And I think, to me, it matters when the misunderstanding has an impact. And when, for example, with Agile, I feel like it's had a very broad, far-reaching impact, that word has been misunderstood. It's not just about a specific conversation, it's about an industry. It's a profession, it's almost a burden, the word. Not what it represents. What it represents is great. And the understanding that I think agile coaches and scrum masters bring, that's not the problem. But the word is it's a dirty word in a lot of contexts now, right? It's not a clean word. So the impact of misunderstanding product or misunderstanding value stream, that can lead to a lot of waste. A lot of, like, those misunderstandings can lead to an awful lot of waste. Like, if people are lined up around a bad definition of those things, or misunderstanding those definitions of those things. I'm recalling the pictures from Jeff Patton's story mapping one pager, where it's people are saying, I'm glad we agree, and they're thinking of three different
Yes,
things.
I thought about it, and I thought about adding it actually. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think this is the kind of situation where that's one that I think it does matter. So if we're saying, if you as a person are looking at a room and perceiving, you're reading the room and thinking they're all thinking different things about this, that's where you weigh up, is the impact of
Yeah.
this going to lead to wasted time? Therefore, I'm going to weigh in. So does it matter if people say ceremonies instead of events? To me, not really. Does it matter if we don't really understand whether we're talking about a product or a service? It could, right? That could matter.
Yeah.
Uh,
And maybe now navigating a bit towards what can be done about it. Um, I have an experience from facilitating some conversations between people when they were discussing how to approach a certain issue they had. And I remember, um, so someone raised the topic, people voted that yes, this is the most important thing to discuss right now. And we jumped into, all right, what can we do about it? And like 5 minutes into the conversation, I realized they are talking about completely different things. And they just can't communicate properly because the issue was not well understood. It's like people voted on the same, sticky note with description of an issue, but they didn't really agree on what do they understand by this
mm,
issue. And it was hilarious because then trying to do like, all right, let's stop it for a minute because I think you don't agree on the, like we should spend a bit more time on the previous step. It was so difficult to navigate then. Like
mm,
people really wanted to, be done with what is their understanding, what they propose to do, rather than all right, maybe we should go back. It was just an interesting learning for me, that as soon as you agree that yes, this is the issue, all right, but how do you understand the issue? Can we spend 3 minutes where each of you just says like what is your perceived understanding of what the topic that we're discussing is about? It's
Mm.
yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think as a facilitator, running a meeting or facilitating some kind of regular conversation, you have the option to open the event, open the space with an introduction. You can bring a definition of terms to that. You can say, look, for the purposes of this conversation, when we say this word, this is what I suggest we mean. Can we take a minute and just literally check in on that?
Yeah,
Like thumbs up on the meeting controls, or thumbs up if you're in the room together, or thumbs down if you think it's something else. And let's talk about it. Let's get it out of the way, get it off the table so we can really get to what matters. The other thing that I think I would say about this is uh watch out for trying to be a guru. You're not there to enlighten people about the correct definition of words. This is not
oh,
this is
I'm
not
not
your
that.
no, no. As much as you might want to say, well, actually, it's not ceremonies. As much as you might want to say it like that, that's a fast way to limit the progress of your journey in the team or the room you're in. Um, I think what we're talking about here is noticing noticing where these things have a potential um, to cause misunderstanding, to lead to waste, or to derail an objective or an outcome, and finding a tactful way to clarify for the group and facilitating that in a curious way by using the technique you described at the start of the conversation. I think that's a great technique. Finding a way to do that. And, you know, it depends. How senior is the person? How many people are in the room?
Yeah,
Is it better to take it offline? I hate that phrase, but is it better to have a one-to-one conversation after the big conversation? Can we cover it now? Should we just put it in a parking lot?
yes.
These are considerations. But yeah, don't be a guru. I need to get that T-shirt or something, because I see a lot of that, and it becomes like there's a version of mansplaining in our profession that I don't think goes down very well. Actually, it's not ceremonies. I, I can hear myself saying it at some point. I probably have.
All
So
right. I'm
recommendations then on this one. Any
yeah,
sources?
I guess I started with clean language. I wrote a short LinkedIn article overviewing it. Why not recommend my own article? Yeah,
Do it. Yeah.
I'll do that. What else?
Um, the feedback structure that I referred to came from an IC Agile training course with Agile Affinity. They're in the UK. I can include a link to them. That course was really good. It was the systems coaching badge, and they used clean language to get to the learning outcomes for that course. Another thing I'm reading at the moment relates to this. We probably didn't talk about it directly, although I think David Marquette uses the dirty comparison to clean language, which is what I brought into this. It's called Leadership is Language. Very good. I'm enjoying it at the moment. And he talks about really concrete examples of why words can matter. So instead of saying things like, we're good, right? Which closes off the possibility that we might not be great.
Not be good.
We,
Yeah.
yeah, you might not be good, but we're good, right? Is the way of saying, yep, yep, we're good. Yeah, it's like the Irish, how are you? We don't really want to hear how you are. you know? But he's got lots of great examples like that. So leadership as language is definitely one I'd recommend.